Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is Letters to Blue. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Every week I take some of the letters that have been submitted by viewer comments through emails or from Instagram, and I roll it all into an episode to bring you guys a more extended conversation about some of the issues that some of the viewers are dealing with, or if they have a story to share. So if you have a letter you'd like to submit for a future episode, comment below or send me an email. I will include my email address in the description box below, so please check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much to everybody who submitted their letter, and let us begin. All right, first letter. I was unaware that it is extremely heavy with medical stuff, medical coding. I am at a point where I'm thinking, what did I get myself into? Tons of information to go through just to earn a credential and a certificate. Haha. But I'm understanding what you're saying about medical terminology and anatomy and pathophysiology is the base courses and is needed to start with, because it does click and help with my pathophysiology course. At the same time right now, I'm dreading the thought of earning CEUs or continuing education units throughout this career path and recertifying every 2 years. Sure, it is overwhelming. How do you keep yourself in check dealing with the CEUs and 2-year recertify process, Blue? So continuing education units, if you don't know, every single one of these credentials with AHIMA or AAPC requires you to earn a certain amount of continuing education units in order to maintain your credential. And you have a 2-year cycle in order to earn all of these continuing education units that you need in order to maintain your credential. Think of it as these credentials are living documents and you have to feed them, okay? The purpose of these continuing education units is to ensure that we are staying educated and that we don't forget and that we are staying on top of the latest and greatest that's coming out. And when it comes to what CEU classes are for, right, it's a variety of things. As long as it is approved with your association, or those count towards medical coding, because there's different kinds of CEUs, okay? There's some that are just for like physicians and some that are just for nurses. So you have to make sure that you're getting the proper ones, right? And it will tell you, okay? But the thing is, when you are earning these, it could be on basically any subject. It is virtually open as long as it is an approved continuing education unit. Now, as a benefit of your employment, and with some employers, they do offer these every single month. For me, I work in a place where I'm very fortunate that they do provide these every single month. So every single month I go to a class, and it's usually on a different coding topic, or sometimes it's on updates and things like that, and they're explaining it and breaking it down further. So I earn continuing education units that way. I also earn continuing education units by doing supplemental programs that are like for boot camps and things like that. I earn continuing education units that way in order to raise my knowledge level, all right? And there's also going to conference. You earn continuing education units by attending those as well. So there's a lot of fun alternatives into earning continuing education units. And there are plenty of free places that will give you free ones just by listening to a class or listening to a program, or perhaps attending whenever we are able to do that again. But there's always those possibilities. I know that there's a lot of them on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, that is a great place to source out seeking free continuing education units. And I'm on LinkedIn too as Medical Coding with Blue. So if you're over there, I hope that you'll join me on my page. So anyway, but yes, so it's fun to get the continuing education units. This way you always make sure that you're ahead of the pack when it comes to knowledge and your knowledge base. And it's really just a part of our profession. Anytime you have intellectual professions like medical coding, any of the medical professions in the medical field, right? Even attorneys, these are intellectual professions, and they require you to have those continuing education units, right? In order to maintain your certifications and for some, whatever they're holding, okay? So it is important that you do that. And when you are working in this type of field, it is a necessary thing. And so it's just part of it. And it's really not overwhelming once you get used to it. And once you start learning about it, you'll be fine. Okay, so that is my advice on that one. Next letter. First, I would like to say thank you for your videos. There are not many videos on here about medical billing and coding, especially that explain it the way that you do. Oh, thank you. You make it easy for me to understand. And second, I don't know HCPCS very well. I already have my CCS and I'm in the middle of doing my CEUs. My question is, do you have any recommendations on books to help self-study and understand HCPCS modifiers as well? Any feedback you give would be greatly appreciated. So, because you asked me about books and you know how much I love books, everybody who watches my channel knows I'm a book lover. But I also like a particular brand of books. I like OPTUM 360 coding books. This is not an ad for OPTUM 360. However, all of the advertisement that I give them talking about my my reactions to their books is pretty good, I think. So OPTUM, call me. Anyway, with OPTUM 360, they have lots of coding references. It is a wonderful website to go with lots of really good books for medical coders. And the last I checked, they are still having their 60% off sale for the 2021 editions, I believe. And then they still have their 2022s already on sale. And I think it's 30 or 35% off. I'm not sure. You'll have to go to the website. Please look in the description box below. If you run into a problem, and because this happened a couple of times with some folks, with the link, right? Sometimes you may have to change the browser that you're using. Some people use Internet Explorer, other people use Chrome and things like that. So change the browser if that is an issue is coming up, like it's not coming up. But it is there, the site is active, and you know, the sale, as far as I know, today it is still on. So that is something that you guys should check out. But they do have a really good modifiers book on the OPTUM 360 coding website. It talks about the all the modifiers. It talks about the breakdown of the modifiers, and I'll probably have to do another video where I'm demonstrating some of the books so I can show you the one that I have for the modifiers, which was courtesy of my Patreon subscribers. So if you don't know about Patreon, Patreon is a lot like YouTube, except you pay to sponsor the creator, which would be me, and there's no commercials on my Patreon videos. I do lots of worksheet exercises, right? And I make these up, and it's about medical terminology and anatomy and coding questions, inpatient, outpatient, and diagnosis coding as well. So if you're interested in that, I also do word searches and crossword puzzles to help with medical terminology. So if you're interested in that, check out the link for my Patreon channel. But because of the support that I receive on Patreon, I was able to buy some books. So the modifiers book was one of the books that I did buy. So again, I'll probably have to do a video where I'm talking about those modifier books. But there's lots of really good references on there, and like just the coding companions, which I love. Coding Companions, if you don't know, is a specialty book, right? And it is covering everything about that specialty. It's got all of the procedures, like the outpatient procedures, and it's got the diagnoses that correspond with those procedures. It breaks down the procedures in layman's terms. So it is really a wonderful resource. It talks about RVUs as well, and other terms that you should know about that procedure or those conditions. Very valuable resource, guys. If you really want to expand your knowledge base and learn more, these tools that they have on the OPTUM 360 coding website are amazing for that. So I will say that they are really cool when it comes to those types of things. But when it comes to the HCPCS, there's not a lot that I've seen, only because HCPCS, a lot of those codes are covered by, like, if your office is issuing like durable medical equipment, it's typically the code for that particular product is usually on the box. If not, if it has like a brand name, you can also Google and see what HCPCS code it comes up with, and just verify in the book to make sure that it's the correct one. But the thing about the HCPCS book is those are additional codes. So yes, while it is important, it's because I guess most people think that if you've already had training on how to look up diagnosis codes and how to look up procedure codes, whether it's inpatient or outpatient, that the HCPCS book should be a cakewalk. So just check out the video that I did about the HCPCS, and I think that's the video that they commented on. But the best thing that you can do is just go through there whenever you have a chance to go through your HCPCS book and really get familiar with the types of codes that are in there. And some of those codes are very insurance carrier specific, okay? Like Medicare, they have the colonoscopy codes, right? And so that is something that you need to pay attention to, because not all facilities are going to use all the codes that are in those books and in the HCPCS book, and not all insurances are going to accept those codes either. So if that wasn't enough, right, to get you confused and just to confuse you even more, okay? Some places do, some places don't. So it really all depends on what is happening in your facility. So ask questions and, get with the people that make those decisions and find out if that is what they use in your facility. Okay, so that is just something to know. But like I said, going over the HCPCS book would be very helpful, and I've done HCPCS exercises on my Patreon channel. That's just another thing for my channel. But yeah, if you're interested, but just go and look into the HCPCS book. Just spend time with it, getting familiar with what is there. It's a very small book, and so it's not very intimidating. It's very straightforward in what it is for. So that's my answer on that one. Next letter. Next letter. So I'm doing the medical billing and coding program at my community college and plan on getting into this field through billing. But I'm confused as to what to do when it comes to getting into coding. Your channel has been helping me a lot throughout the pandemic since I decided that this is what I want to do. So thank you. Oh, thank you. When I'm finished with my certificate, what would be the next step? Do I go into billing and work on the coding certs on the side, or do I work on it now? So I had asked the viewer, what was she being trained for? She said the CCA. Okay. So the CCA, if you don't know, is a Certified Coding Associate, and that is a credential offered with the American Health Information Management Association. I will say this. You do not have to be certified to be a medical biller. It is not uncommon for medical billing and coding students to go work as a biller while they are in school. That is not unheard of, because you don't have to be certified to be a biller, okay? But my thing is this. When it comes to learning the credentials on the side or studying for the credentials on the side, people tend to think that this is something that you can do in your spare time, right? Like, I'm just going to do it sparingly here and there. When it comes to learning medical coding and studying for these certifications, there's a little bit of dedication that's got to go into it, more than just, I'm going to do this on the side. This is not a side thing. This is not a side hustle. And it's just like nails on a chalkboard when I hear people say that it's a side hustle. It's not a side hustle, guys. It has to be taken seriously. And when you get experience, then yes, there are like PRN positions and there's like part-time work once you've had experience. But especially in the beginning, you really do have to focus on it. If you're working as a biller, it's totally cool to be, in school and doing that simultaneously. That's fine. But as far as like just sort of doing it like on the side, if you're going to pay attention to it, pay attention to it. If you're going to get into it, get into it. Because again, you don't have to be certified to be a biller. So that is just my point there. And these tests require concentration. They require focus. And if you're trying to put too much on your plate and not really focusing on the goal, which is to get the certification, then you're setting yourself up for failure, right? So you want to make sure that you are trying to get this and get this right when you start right out of the gate. So that's just my advice. And the last letter. Hello, found your YouTube, and after 15 minutes of watching your videos, I've learned more from you than my own instructor and advisor. Can't complain. I should have done my own research before starting the program. I'm in a 16-week fast-track medical coding program with no medical terminology background whatsoever. My instructor keeps telling me that the medical terminology is not really required, and to teach myself as I go. I have been studying, yes, but there is no way I'll be able to learn all this information in 16 weeks, you know. Could you recommend a solution to this mistake of mine? Should I keep on with this program, learn as much as I can, and then after completing, maybe enroll in a medical terminology course or human anatomy? So I'm going to reiterate the importance of medical terminology, anatomy, and pathophysiology. It's heartbreaking. It breaks my heart to hear that an instructor said this, okay? This sounds like they're just pushing you out into the field and not preparing you for what's out there. Guys, I'm going to be very honest with you. When you are going through these very fast, swift programs, you have to do one of two things. You have to really buckle down and do a lot of self-study, and you have to do a lot of research on your own, because clearly these accelerated programs are foot on the gas. They are, let's get you through really quickly. 16 weeks is only 4 months. I get nervous when people tell me that they're in a 6-month program. If you're going to go into these medical billing and coding programs, it should be at least 9 months. This is going to give you enough time to relax and be able to figure this stuff out. Because when you get out in the real world and you start having to apply for these jobs, you know, people get frustrated because they say, well, nobody wants to hire without experience. Here's the deal. When you don't have experience, this means somebody's going to have to train you. And a lot of times, if you know nothing, right, about medical coding, you just pass your certification exam and you're there, right? That person that's training you has to start at ground zero. But if you come in, and a lot of people are not going to want to do that, right? Unfortunately, there's not a lot of people that are patient enough. And sometimes a facility cannot wait to get a coder up to speed. Unfortunately, that is the case a lot of times, because if they're hiring, they're usually pretty desperate for people, right? Because there's like an influx of patients, and, you know, there's a higher volume of encounters and things like that. So with that being said, this is why I tell people, especially that are brand new with no experience, you got to bring your A game. You have to bring your A game, because if they take a chance and they give you a quiz, right, to see what you know, and you are able to knock their socks off with this quiz, like, okay, this person knows enough to get by and to get through, okay? We don't have to explain a whole lot to them. They understand and they know how to look things up. And that's generally what they're looking for when they give you an exam like that. But if they give you like a test, right, to see what your knowledge base is, and they say, well, you know, you don't have experience, you know, we're real sorry, apply again, or something like that, something along those lines, is probably because you didn't do too well on those tests. And they need somebody that's going to do well. So even though you have no experience doesn't mean that you can't do well on those tests, which is why I say, going back to this now, when you are in these accelerated programs, you have to do a lot of self-study on your own. It is possible to learn this on your own. I did do a video about a template that you can work with, and it goes over all the books that I recommend for self-training. So that way you can just read the books, go through the books, and be able to teach yourself. And if you need tutoring, there's tons of tutors out there. They're all over LinkedIn, and I happen to be a tutor myself. So I always leave the rates for my tutoring sessions in the description box below. I also do resume reviews and professional coaching. So just another one, just letting you guys know. Because your resume also plays a huge part into whether or not you're going to get a call back. Because if you are not putting your best foot forward on that resume or showing and highlighting the things that you need to highlight, you're never going to get a call then. And a lot of times people don't know this, and they get very frustrated when they're looking, and then they're running into this thing of, well, they're not hiring because they don't have experience. There's a lot of other factors that go into it. Are you passing their entrance test? You know, so when you're in these fast track programs, the best thing that I can advise you to do is, you didn't know. You didn't know, and a lot of times people don't know, because when these people get involved in these accelerated programs, you know, these people that are selling these programs, they're a part of a business, and their business is to protect that business and to make sure that they keep money going into that business. Because you know how hard it is to get adults to want to even go back to school and to learn. So that's something to think about. But get the most out of them that you can. If they're willing to share resources and things like that, like extra books or links, websites, or anything like that, if you have to study it on your own, you have to study it on your own. If they're willing to answer your questions, then ask them questions. If you don't feel comfortable, find a tutor, because that's the only way you're going to be able to set yourself up for success. Don't give up just because you all of a sudden run into this issue of, oh man, I spent all this money and it's so fast track and I'm not learning anything. There's not time to give up now, okay? Just know that there's help out there. There are also mentors with the associations themselves. And, you know, you can reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you help me out? And things like that. There's always that. But again, if you really get in trouble and you're like, I don't know, I don't understand this, reach out and find a tutor, okay? You may have to pay a couple bucks for that, but, you know, it's worth it, I think. At least when I'm tutoring, I always make sure that the people understand what's happening, because sometimes, like, if you're in a group, in a class group, and, you know, everybody's like trying to clamor for attention and things like that, and you just need somebody to just explain it to you, it will make a world of difference. So that is just my suggestion on that. Just get as much out of them as you can. Accept that you're in that program. And yes, absolutely. If you feel like you need to take a separate course, there's tons of separate courses out there. The associations offer them. I know AAPC has theirs. AHIMA has theirs, where you can go to their programs online. There's also many other different associations out there that do offer medical terminology and anatomy and things like that. You can also look on YouTube. There's plenty of those videos out there. Get one of those workbooks for anatomy and medical terminology. That always helps as well. So repetition is always the key. And not only that, one other thing about medical terminology, make sure that you are trying to learn the prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words. There is no sense in trying to learn whole words and getting a hold of that medical dictionary, because you're just going to make yourself feel frustrated because it's so much information. At least this way, if you're building the words by learning your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words, then you're a lot closer to understanding by piecing together the words. That's just my advice on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please give it a like. Please give it a share. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do, because I am almost there. I am less than 100 away from 10,000 subscribers. 10,000 organically grown subscribers. I'm just saying. So I'm going to wrap this one up. If you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.